Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another random review. If you're familiar with the channel, you know that I tend to not have that much knowledge of modern films, but I make up for it by not having much knowledge of old films. So with that regard, let's talk about 1924's Die Nibelungen, just because it gives me the excuse to say Die Nibelungen at least 20 times. This is directed by Fritz Lang from 1924. This is a Masters of Cinema 2-disc Blu-ray, number 46 in the Masters of Cinema. Hard to believe that 2 years from now it will be 100 years old, and it's far better than quite a lot of films made in the last 20 years. This is Fritz Lang after Dr. Mabuse. He made this film, which is really two films, Siegfried and Kriemhild's Revenge. And after that, after he'd burned the studio down, he wanted to go and do something small and intimate. So in 1927 he did Metropolis, obviously. It is fairly mind-boggling when you think of what guys like Fritz Lang and Murnau and Laemmle and others were doing in Germany in complete kind of Robert Wiener were doing stuff that other people just weren't doing, and the difference between their insane visions, because this is the work of a megalomaniac, it's difficult to kind of have an example of the difference between what they were doing and what everybody else was doing. I think Powell and Pressburger may be the only other example of that. They were doing Technicolor fever dreams when the rest of British cinema was black and white post-war drudgery. So everybody knows the story of Die Nibelungen, obviously more famous by the opera. This was a gift by Fritz Lang to the German people to make them feel better about themselves. Tells the story of Siegfried. The second part is about Roy. Not really. And Siegfried wants to marry Kriemhild. So, as you do when you want to get married, you have to slay a dragon and then bathe in its blood to become invincible. He gets treasure by killing a small person. But as he bathes in blood, very much like Achilles, he is given a weak spot, which is done very poetically and beautifully by Lang. The dragon perhaps isn't up to snuff, but again, this is myth. It works within the myth. It works within the tale. Again, this is 1924. And Siegfried then asks for Gunther, who is a bit shady, for his sister's hand in marriage. But Gunther asks Siegfried because he wants the female warrior Brunhild to be his wife. So Siegfried helps him by using the magic and the treasure that he has found after slaying the dragon. But at some point Brunhild realises she's been duped, and then with Hagen, who looks a bit like Rob Zombie, or Rob Zombie looks a bit like him, conspires to kill Siegfried. And that is essentially the end of the first part. It's 282 minutes long. Could probably be half an hour shorter for me. But I actually preferred the first half to the second part, where Grimvald is so distraught about what happened to Siegfried. She doesn't care about herself, doesn't care about her body, doesn't care about anything. She just wants vengeance. So she ends up marrying Attila, who happens to be a Hun, and uses Attila to then essentially go to war with Gunther and kill Hagen to get revenge for Siegfried's death. Again, the second half perhaps goes on a little bit too long, but it has an amazing climax, battle scenes that are pretty brutal. My colleague Nazan Prod, in a conversation recently, did point out that this film was probably an influence in Kurosawa, and you can certainly see in the burning of the castle and also the studio, that must have been an influence on Kurosawa when he was doing Ran. The burning, smoking castle at the end of Ran is very similar to the castle burning, the smoke, the fire licking like a hungry mouth, a hungry smoky mouth, looking for more sustenance as the castle burns. Again, it's like Lord of the Rings. It says so in the back of the Eureka Masters of Cinema edition, but this is Lord of the Rings with an actual cost. You know, this is Lord of the Rings where people die. Most people die. And obviously I would prefer to watch the Nibelungen than Lord of the Rings, but that's just me. Again, it's mind-boggling, the sets, the production design, the extras, and like I say, Lang, after this, went and did something smaller and did Metropolis. Again, it's almost 100 years old, but the energy, the vitality in the film, yes, there is a bit of the German expressionist acting. I'm sure one of the Hun brothers, is played by the same actor who was the night watchman in Murnau's Last Laugh. I could be wrong, but his face does look a little bit familiar. Again, the first half has this lyrical, poetic, magic atmosphere to it, running through forests that seem to be going on forever, beautifully shot backdrops, whereas the second half is more earthy. The second half is more brutal. There's lots of political shenanigans and side deals between characters. But again, as you can probably tell, this is not an in-depth analysis of everything that happens in the Nibelungen. This is more just a video about the sheer majesty of it. Again, almost 100 years old, and it puts things like Lord of the Rings to shame. It's epic in every sense. Certainly influential, and just quite an experience watching it on the big screen. Your eyes are constantly looking at little details, so even if it is people just making side bargains and talking in rooms, there's always something that catches your eye. And obviously it has the huge set piece, or it has several set pieces, but the huge climax. It is a feast for the eyes. Like I say, this is Eureka Massive Cinema. I don't know whether it's still available or whether it's OOP. There's even, in the booklet, there's a short section by Michael Powell, talking about when he first saw it. He was rather agog, and again you can see things Powell and Pressburger as far as that fantastical reality that Powell and Pressburger created with Hein Heckroth. The production design in the Nibelungen is quite stunning. So there you have it. Not a very insightful review, more of just an emotional review of the Nibelungen. Impressive work. And if you can see it on a screen that's as big as possible, and it is, even though it is like 282 minutes, because it's kind of cut into cantos or like 20-minute sections, it's not actually that difficult to get through. Again, the second part languishes a little bit, but once it actually all kicks off in the final third, it's a race towards chaos, which again does have echoes in Ran by Kurosawa. There is a definite, you can almost smell the smoke, and the chaos and the havoc that is wreaked by cold revenge. So thanks very much for watching this nonsensical review of Die Nibelungen. Please let me know what you think of Die Nibelungen, and hopefully join me again for slightly more coherent random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying Die Nibelungen and farewell.